Have you ever worked so hard on an idea, only to have someone else steal it right from under your nose? Well, this is the story of how I lost everything I was working for, and how I turned the tables in a way they never saw coming. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss how it all unfolded. Sometimes, the people closest to you might be the ones plotting behind your back. But the question is, can you turn that betrayal into something more powerful than you ever imagined? Hi, I'm Mary, and today I'm sharing a personal story about betrayal, revenge, and how planning your next move can change everything. I had always been the quiet one in the office, the one who preferred to listen rather than speak. But when it came to work, my ideas were sharp, innovative, and on the cutting edge. I had been working on a startup idea for months, something that could change the entire industry, something that would make a real difference. I had been mapping out the details, refining the model, getting my research straight, and everything was finally falling into place. I was ready to take the next step. Or so I thought. Then, she came into my life. Her name was Emily. She was new at the company, bright-eyed, eager, and ambitious. From the moment she joined, I noticed her. She had a way of making things happen. The way she moved in meetings, the way she smiled as she listened to others, like she was absorbing every piece of information to use it against them later. But what struck me the most was how quickly she adapted. She caught on to everything. Fast. It wasn't long before I realized that she was always around when I was discussing my ideas. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, we were on the same team, and teamwork meant sharing, right? But then I started to see the pattern. Every time I had an idea, every time I mentioned something I was working on, she was there, nodding, taking mental notes. It was subtle, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One day, I was in the break room, discussing my plans for the startup with a couple of colleagues. I mentioned a potential partnership with a big investor and how I was planning to pitch the idea in the next few weeks. I thought I had spoken in a very general way, not revealing too much. But later that day, Emily approached me with a bright smile on her face. "You know," she said, "I think that investor you mentioned could be a perfect fit for my idea as well. It's similar to yours, but a bit more refined. What do you think?" I froze. She had taken the exact idea I was working on, and she was now claiming it as her own. She didn't even have the decency to ask for my input or acknowledge the hard work I had put in. It wasn't just frustrating, it was infuriating. That evening, I stayed late at the office, replaying the conversation in my head. How had she done it? How had she managed to steal my idea so effortlessly? I needed answers, but more importantly, I needed a plan. This wasn't just about an idea anymore. It was about taking control of my future. I had worked too hard to let her take this from me. I thought back to a conversation I had with my mentor a few months ago. He had told me, the real secret to success isn't about having the best ideas. It's about executing them first. And that's when it hit me. She thought she had stolen my idea, but she had no idea what I had in store. What she didn't know was that I had been planning something far bigger than just a startup. The trap was already set. I spent the next few days researching, tweaking, and refining everything I had worked on. I wasn't just going to beat Emily at her own game. I was going to make sure that when the time came, my idea would shine brighter, faster, and more convincingly than hers ever could. I would take what she thought was hers and turn it into something no one could ever take from me. Little did she know, I had been preparing for this moment for months, quietly observing her, studying her, and waiting for the right time to strike back. And when that time came, I would make sure she knew exactly who had the real power. But first, I needed to stay patient. I needed to wait for the right moment to execute the next phase of my plan. After all, revenge wasn't about rushing. It was about precision. And the best way to get revenge wasn't to simply outsmart her. It was to outdo her. Days passed, and my patience began to pay off. Emily, completely unaware of what I had been planning, continued to pursue the idea she thought she had stolen. She spoke confidently in meetings, made promises to investors, and presented herself as the innovative mind behind the project. But every time she took a step forward, I took two. I knew that I couldn't let her succeed without consequences. This wasn't just about the idea anymore. It was about proving that hard work, vision, and patience could never be undermined by someone's sneakiness. She thought she had the upper hand, but what she didn't realize was that I had already created something far more powerful than she could ever imagine. The first move in my plan was to approach the investor, the one Emily had been boasting about. But instead of presenting the same idea she had stolen, I showed him the real version of my startup, the one I had been refining for months. It was more polished, more practical, and had a clearer vision of the future. I had anticipated the flaws in Emily's pitch, and I made sure to highlight them. I talked about market trends, consumer needs, and future growth, all the while keeping a calm, professional demeanor. The investor was impressed, not just with the idea, but with the execution. He was eager to meet again to discuss terms. My plan was working, but it wasn't enough just to win over the investor. I had to make sure Emily knew she had lost. I waited for the perfect moment, an important company presentation where Emily was scheduled to announce her version of the idea. As she took the stage, I sat in the audience, listening to her words. She spoke confidently, almost arrogantly, about how her startup would revolutionize the industry. It felt almost like a public declaration of her victory. But then it was my turn. I stood up, walked to the front, and casually began to present my own version of the idea. The room fell silent as I explained how I had worked tirelessly for months, how I had developed the concept from scratch, and how I had the data and research to back it up. I could see the shock on Emily's face as she realized what was happening. The same idea she had presented was now being unveiled as mine. The investor who had been so impressed with her ideas was now looking at me, nodding thoughtfully, clearly, seeing the difference between the two versions. It was a silent victory. The room was filled with murmurs as people realized who the real visionary was. Emily's face turned pale, and her confident stance faltered. She had been so sure that she had gotten away with it, but I had outsmarted her. In that moment, I realized something. Revenge isn't always about making a big spectacle of it. It's about proving that, no matter how hard someone tries to take what's yours, if you have the heart and the vision, they can never truly succeed. Emily's project crumbled. The investor backed out, and her reputation in the office was tarnished. She had underestimated me, and in doing so had lost everything. But for me, this wasn't just about winning. It was about showing the world that integrity and hard work always pay off in the end. I didn't need to steal ideas. I didn't need to play dirty. I had something she could never take away from me: my ability to create, to innovate, and to execute. And in the end, that was far more powerful than any idea she could ever steal. Sometimes the people around you might try to steal what you've worked so hard for. But remember, what they don't see is the dedication you've put into making that idea your own. Always stay one step ahead, because when you do, the tables can turn faster than you think.